Today's interview is with James Pontall. He's going to be sharing with us a little bit of his experience knocking on doors, selling books to people that he has never met before in very unfamiliar neighborhoods. By stepping out in faith in this way, we will find out what were the lessons that he learned from God and what were the things that he has seen that built up his faith. James, thank you so much for coming. Tell us first about that idea. What is literature evangelism and how did you get involved with just knocking on random people's doors and offering them spiritual books?
Thanks for having me. Literature ministry is a form of ministry where we're actually sharing God through books. And so you don't have to know everything. You don't have to know every answer in the world. But the books really basically cover many questions that people would have. And so when we're sharing these books, we're just connecting with people. We're connecting with people, we're finding their needs, and what we're trying to do is we're just sharing a book that will actually speak into a certain aspect of their life.
I mean, I think it would be very difficult. You're selling books about God, which a lot of people that you knock on the doors, they're not necessarily interested on, right? So how would you even start the conversation at the door?
So I'm involved with Youth Rush, which is a program all over Australia. And in the school holidays, youth go out and we do a bit of training. And so we train up. And when I said it's easy in the sense of it's easy to just go and do. You don't need amazing skills or qualifications. You don't need to study for 10 years to do. You could just go out and do it. But it is hard. It's definitely hard because there's a lot of trials you come along on the way. And when you partner with God, God shows you how to improve. And it's easy to start, and there's definitely difficulties that come along. But in the long run, when you've got God with you and He's helping you along the way, you can push through those difficulties. And so what we do is we train the young people up and we give them a little script. We give them something that you can say about each book. And I remember the first time that I went out, I memorized.
Are these books about the Bible normally or about God? What are they about?
Yeah, so there's some on God, but mostly we're trying to improve three aspects: people's physical health, people's emotional health, and people's spiritual health.
Okay.
And so usually we lead with a health book, and then one about emotional health as well, and then we get into the spiritual topic. And so there's something for everyone. If they're not ready to talk about spiritual things, then we can open the door through emotional health or maybe physical health. Yeah, how to improve your health. Yeah. Because what God wants to do is restore us into His image. And there's so many people that are struggling with mental illnesses. There's so many people in the world that are struggling physical illnesses as well. That there are many that are preventable. Now, not everything's preventable, but there are many illnesses that they're lifestyle illnesses that are preventable. And so we know that God wants to heal us not just spiritually. He doesn't want us to just profess something, but He wants us to live the fullest life that we can. And so if people aren't ready for that spiritual, we still want to share with them something that is going to bless their life.
What were some of the highlights for you? Were there things that God taught you during that process, valuable lessons, or maybe even miracles that you have seen in your career as a literature evangelist?
Yeah, well, I think when I first started, I did the training. I went through the training, and I was super confident in the training. But then when they told me I had to go out, I was freaking out. And I remember for the whole hour of lunch before we went out, I was praying in my head, and I was like, God help me, God help me, God help me. Those are the only three words that were in my head on repeat for an hour. And I remember I got to the first door, and I just went through my spiel, and I got to the end, and the guy said, oh yeah, I like these three books. And so he buys the books. And I was freaking out as
so your first door, the person bought all the books that you have to sell.
Well, I had 5 books, but he took 3 of them.
Wow.
And I just thought that was incredible. I thought I'd be going for hours. Yeah, I thought I'd be going for hours. And then the next door, I was still panicking again, right? So I had that relief. It's almost as if God said, I'm with you, but I was still freaking out again. So I walked to the next door, and I knock on the door, and I go through the whole thing, and she wants 2 books as well. And I thought, oh, wow, this is actually so different to what I was expecting. Yeah. Very interesting time in my life where God actually led me into literature ministry, and He led me to that program, I really believe. I was really, really scared. And I kept telling God that I was really, really scared. I really needed His help. And yet outwardly, when opportunities were presented to me, I spoke in faith. And I think that as I did that, I partnered with God. I just said, God, I need your help every step of the way. And as I partnered in faith, he really helped me. And he really helped me on, and that was my first time. And I think I've done about 10 Youth Rush programs since. And there's been plenty of opportunities where as you talk to people, you learn how to communicate with people better. And you learn how to connect with people on a real level. And so you're not just there as a salesman. You want to improve people's life, and you see some of the hardships that people are going through. And you meet people, and there can be people where you're looking at their face, you're just going through what you're supposed to say, and you don't feel like you're making a connection with people. And then you'll get to the end and you'll say, which books interest you the most? And out of nowhere, they'll just say, this spiritual one, I really need this in my life. And
wow.
That's not a one-off. That happens quite frequently. I remember there was a day when I was in Cairns in North Queensland. I knock on this lady's door and she's really interested in the books. She says, wow, this is incredible. I love spiritual things. I was praying to God, I'm bored. I want a book to read. I want a spiritual book to read. I got nothing to do. And she's like, and you came and brought these spiritual books. And then she goes, and just before my daughter left to go to university today, she said to me, hey, Mum, by the way, a man's coming to deliver spiritual books today. And no one else had come except me. And so I found out a little bit of the backstory was they must have ordered some books online and she got a notification on her phone that morning and told her mum.
Maybe she had a prophetic insight, I think. The Holy Spirit was talking to her.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an amazing story. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the big challenges there? Because you're doing there a work for God. You're trying to make people's lives better. Surely Satan is not wanting for you to do that for free. And surely there will be some way that he will be trying to discourage you. Did that happen?
I think that there's been attacks from Satan literally every program that I've been on. I've done 10 programs. I think there's been attacks every program. Satan really will attack you based on your fears, your insecurities. Plenty of these programs I've found that I myself, and I can't speak for everyone, but I know that I myself have had 1 or 2 sleepless nights. Or there's been something that's been slowly creeping in the back of your head that just gets magnified as you're trying to do work for God.
And what are the kind of things that Satan would attack on? Like in your own experience, what were the things that you felt most attacked on, and how did you overcome those things?
I think maybe a lot of insecurities around people's perception of me and how other people viewed me, really the praise or the pleasure of other people. Those things have been magnified, I think, by Satan and twisted. And so I feel that I know that I've viewed things differently, and I come out of the situation and I think I'm not thinking rationally about something. And I know that it's an attack of the devil. And so there's been times where I've had feelings of abandonment and feelings of loneliness that have been magnified when I'm trying to do work for God. And that's hard to deal with in the moment. But I know that the things that have helped me is, number one is praising God, especially through song, and just memorizing his word. And
was there any particular Bible passage or promise you cling to that you felt that were really speaking to you?
I know it's different every time, and it's more so based on what I've been reading lately in the Bible. But one of my favorite is Hebrews 13, verse 5 and 6, which says, let your conduct be without covetousness. Be content with such things as you have, for he himself has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. And I remember there was a day where I got out of the car, and I remember I stood and I was with my team leader, and he just asked me what I wanted prayer for. And I actually didn't answer him, which is, I'm not usually that rude, but I was really having a bad day.
Yeah.
And I got out of the car, and I remember I'm standing on the side of the street, and I just thought to myself, and I said a prayer, and I just said, God, I really don't want to be here. And I don't know. I was going through some of my own personal stuff at the time, and Satan was really magnifying that in my mind. And I said, God, I really don't feel worthy to be here, and I really don't feel that I should be here. I'm doing this for you, and I just don't know that I want to be here. I said, please help me, encourage me. And I go knock on the first door, and the first person, the lady comes to the door, and she's actually interested in the book, The Great Controversy. and she buys it. And then she says to me, she says, "Can I pray for you that God would encourage you to do this work?"
Wow.
And we said a prayer. I just couldn't believe that. I just prayed to God. I said, "God, can you please encourage me?"
Wow. This random person, the first one of the day, said to you, "Hey, let me pray for your encouragement." Wow.
Yeah. And so she prays for me.
Incredible.
Yeah, so she prays for me, and then the next few experiences that I had were actually really good. And about an hour later, I'd cheered up, and I was actually really enjoying it. And that's the thing, you know, I think Satan really attacks you at the start because he knows that there's blessings that are going to be there.
100%.
And I met this lady. By the time I cheered up, I'd met this lady, and she was telling me some of the things she was really struggling with, and it was really a divine appointment. But at the end, I remember that she said to me, "Why are you out here on such a hot day?" And I said to her, I said, "To be honest with you, I don't always feel like coming out every day. But I said, the reason I keep coming back out is because I know that there's people out here that need this. And I know that God's got blessings out here. And so that's why I don't give up."
Amazing. James, I want you to share with us a little bit about what are the main lessons or blessings. You've shared some of them, but how would you summarize the blessings you have received from God through your experience in Youth Rush? And how can perhaps a young person, or maybe not so young person, but a young person at heart, how can people be a part of that? Is it open to everyone, or is that an age limit to participate in that kind of program?
So Youth Rush itself is run from 15 to 30-year-olds. But literature ministry is not limited to that age. And so it's a program that we usually run on school holidays, and we get the young people, and we just want to encourage one another. Because it's great to go out. You go out 2 by 2, as Jesus said, and you go out with friends, we're singing together, we're praying together, we're eating meals together. It's really a really encouraging program. And so we just run those on school holidays. And so if you're a young person around 14 to 30, 15 to 30, there's plenty of programs that are run all over Australia. You can, if you Google search Youth Rush Literature Ministry, you'll find that. And so there's lots of programs that are happening, but it's not just limited to that. And so people of all ages in all kind of walks of life can do literature ministry. And I remember when I myself was doing another job, I remember that I was just going for a run. I was still a literature evangelist. And so I had a box of books in my car. And I remember a few days before, I wanted to give a great controversy to someone, but I looked in the back of my car and it wasn't there. And so this book wasn't there. I searched all through the box and it wasn't there. But 2 days later, I run into this guy and we start chatting about things in this book. And I was like, God, I wish I had that book in my car. I wish he just placed it there or something. Anyway, I thought, I better offer him something else. And as I look in the box, right in the middle, in front of my eyes, that book was there. And I hadn't restocked the box.
Just appeared there.
And
amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible. It blew my mind, and I was just, wow. It was as if either God blinded my eyes the other day, or put a book there through an angel. And so you can be doing any job. You don't have to just do a program, one of these Youth Rush programs. You can be doing a normal job. You could be a tradie. You could be a businessman. God will always open up doors to share His word.
That's amazing. And if you're interested in knowing more about literature evangelism, about Youth Rush, or about how to get involved, if you want to connect with James, let us know here, 0491 064 669. Send us a message and we will connect you with him. We can give you more information. And if you're interested in that book that James was talking about, The Great Controversy, how would you summarize the book Great Controversy? What is it about in like 10 seconds, James?
Prophecy, hope, and final redemption and salvation.
All right. So if you'd like to learn more about what are the prophecies, hope, and the final redemption of this world, to the book The Great Controversy, we can actually give you a copy for free today. 0491 064 669, #controversy, and we will send that book to you again. #controversy, text that hashtag to 0491 064 669, and we will find a way to mail that out to you. James, thank you so much for coming today. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and particularly about your some incredible stories that God gave to you as you were door knocking.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, James.
Thanks for having me.